Yeah, my name is Duck. I got a cool little NASA space shirt on right now. Little space boy, little spacey boy fresh. You guys know how we do. Cool. And so hopefully everybody's having a good night. Chilling. Um, yeah, I got a little sandwich and stuff. And yeah. So what does it mean to have a political implication for space? That's maybe a really interesting question. Um, because people might say some things are political or seem political. Some are obvious, like can women vote? That's one of the obvious questions where people would say, well, yeah, you know, if women are asking to vote, it's about a political process. It's about decisions that exist in a political society. We can put ourselves back in the year, in the 19th century or something and say, this is going to be a hugely important question because women live and work in cities. They live and work in rural areas. Basically, anywhere that politics abide, you're going to have a woman that lives, sits, works, and all this other stuff. Yeah. So doggy doos, doggy doos and puppy too. That's one of the things I would say is that, people like Kamala Harris that have built entire policy guidelines, policy platforms around these types of topics, topics such as this. Yes. Kamala is not really, she was going to be the first woman president, but she never talked about women voting specifically or explicitly, and yet here we are. Right? Here we are. And so we are expecting, we expect these topics to take sometimes months, years, decades of time. What's going on? These topics to take sometimes months. There's the echo, folks. There's the echo. Great to see everyone. And so a political implication absolutely exists with the question, can women vote? Should women vote? Why is it the case that we think of suffrage as universal suffrage? The idea itself may create a political implication. There's cases where there's not an implication. You hear about the Chicago, who is it? In Chicago, Rod Blagojevich, this guy, real kind of douchebag. He decides to take a bunch of money from taxpayers. He takes money as bribes. He says, put it in the suitcase, put it in the briefcase, leave it in my hotel room. Rod Blagojevich, famous crook, very famous crook, one of many in Washington in politics. But what's the political implication? I'm looking around and I'm thinking to myself, well, I already know these guys are thieves. I don't need to revisit this topic. I don't need to go back over it again and again and again. The thieves, the thieves, the thieves, the thieves, the thieves, the thieves. Yeah, free Palestine. Hey, Bella Toons, great to see you. What's up? Are you doing a 24-hour stream? No, I'm restarting fairly frequently, Neva under pressure. And so we have, when we're talking about something like a political implication, it can start with corruption and you say, I don't see it. We need to hold the crook, the thief accountable, get them in front of Congress. If they broke the law, then they should go see the judge. And then there's other cases where you say, well, little Sally Mae is working out in a field. It's the year 1840, 1850, she works for her dad and her husband out in the field all day. She's so tired. She says, hey, these oxen are pulling carts. I'm pulling carts, and, George Washington Jr. is saying, well, we're now having a conversation about women's ability to vote, about women's rights to vote. And, well, do we vote then? That has a political implication. Her circumstance where she says, I'm working, I can't vote. There's a political implication to that. Are you doing a balding stream? Please bald. I don't know what that means. That doesn't mean anything to me. Trump, Epstein, Weinstein, PedPred, PDF or something. Yep, I'm subscribing just because you said free Palestine. Yes, Stop War. Nonviolence Peace channel. We are also very serious geopolitics channel. We don't always do that stuff. We don't always do like the non-normie stuff. We don't always do, I'm neurodivergent. I studied political science. So if you guys want to take a stab where I typically approach or come in from, that's where it is. But yeah, thank you. I don't work for NASA. I'm very interested and fascinated in physics. Took me a few years to stumble through a lot of different topics in physics. My favorite book is The Social Contract by Jean-Jacques Rousseau. I like Democracy in America. French guy comes over to my country of the United States and writes a nice little a biopic for us, nice little biography for us. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Yes. And so, so no, this is not a flat earth channel. And one of the massive things that I would encourage people to think critically about is the idea that there are political implications to space programs like NASA. And so when we wonder why a conspiracy theory like flat earth comes in, and then you've got Neil deGrasse Tyson or Bill Nye the Science Guy, maybe the most hated people in the flat earth community elsewhere, they're called flurfs. But the people or the idea is called flurfdom or something. But for flat earthers, people who think it's tinfoil, think you could go see it in a museum or something like this. Well, that misses the fact that those guys are at the bottom of the pyramid still in reality, in terms of how decisions are produced, how you get funded, and in terms of not the textbook knowledge, but how it goes out and is applied in the world, and really how science by committee decides what's possible, what's viable, how risks are understood and communicated. All of these really deep questions come back to politics still. Things like the aerospace industry. Some of you may know Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, who has a space company called Blue Origin, Elon Musk and SpaceX. These are all companies that are, publicly available. You can go buy shares in them if you're a rich guy, anywhere in the world. You can go buy shares, buy them in an ETF, buy them in a S&P 500 package or something like this, whatever. Who knows? I don't know how you get them. Buy more of them, buy less of them, whatever you think. But it doesn't change the fact that science has political implications and space has political implications. That word again, it's not money in a briefcase. It's not money in a briefcase. It's something bigger and more important. Bro just went on a rant over Red Hot Chili Peppers lyrics. Do you ever think we're ultimately aiming the Soviet dream, at least in space? Hey, that's a great question. Do we see collective value? I mean, that's a crazy good question. Do we see collective values coming back into play when we think of like a US space program? Some people may say yes. You have more publicly available intellectual property. It seems to push more money into publicly funded systems like universities. But nobody is forced to do this, right? Nobody is forced, or their optionality isn't limited, is perhaps one of the ways people say this. But this also can collapse, and I'm not trying to get too strict or technical here, but you can say that, well, if it was the 60s and 70s and the United States aerospace industries, these are not like freedom markets. These are not, these are maybe not like, some paradigm John Locke would have elevated over other things as producing and elevating and pushing for more freedom. It may be the case that you see collective values, but at the end of the day, you're just talking about, you're talking about another form of geopolitical competition. No idea. That would take me a while to actually think about. Why is everyone involved with NASA involved in the occult? Yeah, worshiping strange gods is maybe like science jargon. Someone might say that. I don't know. If you're an experimentalist or you're working on an actual practical application, you're using science to produce a cohesive end result that's not going to have like a high fault tolerance or something like this. You're going to be reducing risk and increasing the chance that your spaceship flies. That's not a God that exists in the cosmos or the universe. That's one that lives in people's head. But then you can also go measure it. Yeah, there's somebody who's trolling Pete Hegseth right now because, there's rumors Pete Hegseth has covered up UFOs and UAPs. And this is backing into the Biden era, administration, where people were very forward, very upfront, testifying in front of Congress, and the public didn't get answers. If there's evidence out there, if there's evidence that there's something else out there, we certainly didn't see it. We don't have it in the public eye. But Pete Hegseth, I would say, has been part of this, if there's a conspiracy led by Donald Trump to not conduct an Epstein investigation, to cover up the inner workings of the White House while he's threatening global war. These are all horrible things Donald Trump has done, and I think the list would actually go on and on and on and on and on. However, I'd also pull it back and try to mention or say something like, mention or try to say something like, maybe Pete Hegseth does know of something about UAPs that the USA knows about, and he hasn't brought it up. What do you guys think? Do you think aliens exist on Earth? I would like to think that aliens do exist somewhere in our universe. I'm not a betting man. If I was a gambling man, I would be like 50-50. I might be like 49% not voting for it, but I would like to think that they do exist. They also say that a bullet that killed Charlie Kirk matched the pew pew after the FBI joined the case. Government reports are BS. I mean, yeah, if you guys are going into those kinds of conspiracy theories, it's hard to say, FBI, there's these deep and very well-found, investigative units that they bring out for these large cases, right? You funnel them through perhaps whoever owns the case and whatever sort of office it goes through, depending on the jurisdiction. And so when you have forensic investigators or other people who are supposed to be analyzing the evidence, you would expect that they would be as qualified and perhaps the best people for those types of jobs as possible. When some people say, well, it seemed to take too long to find Charlie Kirk's shooter. It also seemed that now there's evidence that's being flubbed. You seem to have this very dunce lineup of people who lined up in the Utah courtroom to prosecute the guy. And so nobody knows what's going on for real. But yeah, at the end of the day, we're pulling this back. And I think in terms of restorative justice in the criminal justice system, that, the state's attorneys are going to have to represent the victim's family, including, Charlie and the Kirk family and all this stuff. Sorry, I know I'm burping. Disgusting duck, but yeah. Somebody's BS spacious. Cool. Hell yeah, brother. Yeah, at the start of World Wars, you give the Nazis just a sense that pretty soon we're going to have these missiles that are not just, basically fanciful mortars, same accuracy, same payloads. But pretty soon you might have these things that can actually launch a bombing campaign on a city, right? This is the funny sort of way of viewing like the old world is people didn't like it. It actually is true that prior to the development of better solid state fuels and better targeting systems and better munitions, for the tip of a warhead in like missiles and kinetic devices, people just didn't know what would change. This is part of the fun of like the documentaries on YouTube. If you guys have seen like the Nazi super gun, the Nazis tried making these giant guns that they could just, basically run 24/7 and bombard the rest of Europe or Britain with. And what didn't work about it is it's just really hard. It's really hard to build a thing that can keep and build enough back pressure and shoot a projectile like a few hundred miles. That's really hard. It's really easy with a missile though. A junior in an aerospace program could design something that basically does the job that Adolf, this guy used to go ask his team to go build. And so when you pull that back, it's kind of interesting to think about like the science offices and stuff like this of the old, Soviet and American and, British and European and of course, National Socialist, military units. And people may have thought that, well, when you have these missiles, you are going to launch bombing campaigns on cities and it will be relentless. There will be no stop to the amount of pain. And if you didn't think people were trustworthy, no one is trustworthy now. If you thought that it was the case that the German people were out of favor with the rest of the world, wait until they have more things. Wait until then, and you will see they will bomb and destroy everything. And it's just very odd because, meanwhile you do have Lenin at this time. You have Lenin, Stalin, and you have still the confusion in the European system, right? Nobody bends the knee to anyone else. You've got the Danes. And so yeah, there's probably somebody that wanted to spend their time talking about how it's the case that missiles are going to change the 1940s, transform modern industrial war from trench warfare to something else, and it just never operated. And when it did operate, it was totally different. I have never worked for NASA. The shirt is poor person signification. I'm a fan of science, but I'm not a scientist. The Germans hated Russians more than the people that Hitler himself was most competitive first and foremost with the German people, some would argue. And so it's this very, very strange sense that when nobody wants to listen to you, or when you only want to put people in this little like fruit cart and drag them behind you, oh, what a poor widow baby, right? Poor widow baby can communicate his big dream and doesn't like getting told no. And when everybody else is just happy having a Christmas holiday ham, Uncle Wadoff has to do something a little different. And this guy's full of hatred, right? In a lot of ways similar to Charlie Kirk, similar to the Turning Point organization, and similar to MAGA Republicans who align themselves with Donald Trump. Also similar to the ethno-nationalist movements that exist in Europe. Nobody can be told that, if you're unhappy, you have to go buy apples from the store, you can't just go be a hooligan at a movie or something like this and leave it there. You have to be the big, strong man who wants to control the world, right? And that's the reality is, Charlie Kirk wanted to influence and then be the person controlling the world. And that's that's not a power-based goal, right? That's a goal based in hatred. Because at the end of the day, he doesn't want to understand anything. He wants to be able to have that power at the flick of a wrist or a command. He can tell people, well, now we hate wicked Kamala, right? That's a very hateful thing. That's not respecting at that level, the implications. Again, the implications are who you can actually help. Who was Kamala helping? Who does Donald Trump, who did he say voters should be who vote for him? Eventually he said everyone, but at first it was just like, yeah, you love Hollywood and you love real estate. I don't know who Ayn Rand is. Greetings from Uzbekistan, sir. I want to learn about astronomy, sir. Hey, I can't provide astronomy resources. But I know there's a physicist named Becky. She's an astrophysicist. She's fun to listen to and learn from. And so I'd recommend like a Hubble documentary, perhaps. Perhaps something about Edwin Hubble might be a better source for astronomy. Telescopes are cool. What I can say is that the lensing and detection technology has gotten so good that we almost forget that those tools, the scientific instruments themselves, are a part of the science. We have to include that method. We have to include the variables that they produce, and just an example is that a telescope, even a telescope that collects light, you don't get out of it like a light bulb. When you look at the data at the end of it, or you see what you see through it, you don't see light like, 400 lumen light bulb, LED disco light bulb, right? It's light from the stars that's been processed through this thing. And so it's still very important to define the variable, because just space light could be a million different things. There's a million different ways to collect photons, maybe. They could be from a million different sources. The wavelengths could mean a million different things. And so, yeah, that's the depth of my astronomy knowledge, is that there's philosophy of science and stuff like that. Hey, Junkie Funk, I'm just going to time you out if you don't want to be here. Everyone else seems to be enjoying the topic right now. So, Kamala wasn't helping anyone. She was having the penguins. She was like the penguins from Madagascar. All she did was smile and wave. And all she did was follow Biden around to make sure she didn't trip and fall or bump into a wall. Was it Madagascar that their president released a homeopathic or naturopathic C19 cure? He said he got inspired by a witch. This is a true story. I believe it was Madagascar said he got inspired by a witch from Brazil. And this witch from Brazil gave him a prophecy, and the prophecy said to make COVID-19 cure drinks from some herb. And so they shipped crates of this COVID-19 cure drink to people as a gift because of a witch in Latin America. I'm not making that up. That's not a conspiracy. You can go Google COVID-19 cure group. Let me see. Oh. Yeah, I'll share in chat the shorter version of this story. Let me see if I can find the priestess. Yeah, he talked to a priestess. I can't find the story that includes he launched the campaign is he said a priestess told me to make this, it's not ayahuasca, but this this other drink. And so I'm not trying to make fun too much, but there you guys go. There you guys go. If you guys go and do the deep dive on this, the Reddit research, he actually launched marketing and social media campaigns talking about the priestess that came to him and told him to market the ingredients that would cure COVID-19. This is going to cure COVID-19. Okay. Hate to break it to you. That's not how that one works, buddy. Doggy pups. Yeah. If you guys don't have dogs or you don't like animals, please do. Yeah. Still subscribe all the same. I do like puppies though. Reality is fluid. It changes because we are all creators of it. Ooh, science is the measuring. That sounds like Taoism a little bit. A little bit like Taoism. It sounds, Buddhism says mind comes first, right? Mind precedes everything. But yeah, it's interesting because I can picture reality different ways, but there's not everything in reality isn't going to be pictured differently, right? And so if my microphone cut out, there's somewhere in this, this cable, somewhere in this cable is where my microphone actually cuts out. That's the reality of it. And yeah, COVID C-19 was psyops. See the Epstein files. Given that RFK and Donald Trump, Epstein was their guy, and they said acetaminophen, whatever they said something, this is an American, they said that Tylenol causes autism, right? That's just a blanket lie. And, they actually just released a study. There's another study that just recently came out looking at 1.5 million births. And taking Tylenol during pregnancy had zero correlation with autism. So they know about the power of belief. Yeah, belief is very powerful. Belief is very powerful. And, who knows? The thing is that if your car breaks down, maybe it is because lightning struck twice in the universe, or, God got mad at you and your car broke down, oh, I have such bad fortunes. You can't believe it. It's not you won't understand how painful it becomes, but I'm having a bad day. That's maybe accurate because we don't live in a rational slice of universe. On Earth, there's tectonic plates that shift randomly. There's volcanoes that erupt randomly. The weather, you can't predict it perfectly. And even if we could, even if that was theoretically possible, humans only have 1% of 5% of 1% of the scientific knowledge we'll have on Earth. It's all still very new. So we live in an irrational part of the little universe, even if you take a super rational mindset. And so saying that mind is a good point for philosophy mind or your belief, what you believe in influences more who you are, what you come with, these types of things. These are really powerful ideas. They're really powerful. They seem to smooth over some of the rough spots of trying to know everything or trying to do too much. Right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Can you imagine that at full capacity, not irrational? Boy, that would be wailing, dude. We'll have to work on that. In my back, my egg farts still stink, and now my fingers are greasy. Hey, BSG Gaming, maybe you should start a food channel, Way. Maybe you can start a food channel. I think I'm the king of not getting. Getting ladies. Yeah, guys, if you're in the chat, men, women, if you guys are worried about body count, about sexual factors and stuff in life, my advice would be don't be, because I do think that there's something incredibly disappointing about the lifestyles that people like Andrew Tate advocate for and promote. People like Myron Gaines who think it's cool to have 8 women talking to you at one time. And so, yeah, I'm obviously not judging. There's poly people, there's people who are sexually promiscuous, and that's part of who they are, what they are doing or decided to do, are doing right now or something. So I'm not judging, but I also think, if I see men or women come in the chat and they say, I'm not getting any of the sweet tang right now. That doesn't upset me. It doesn't disturb me at all, but also I think that's a shift of focus is really powerful. Who knows? There's something better out there. There's still, even if you're into a promiscuous or poly lifestyle, it might upset you, but there's still something better out there, unless there isn't, right? Hey, what's up, WPS? I'm a sub for that one. A food channel. Heck yeah, brother. Yeah. Learning how to cook a good potato or something. Koriyama. 8 women who you like, okay. 8 women who you want to submit, different. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I got this false sense of masculinity that you wouldn't notice, where I'm like always like, if I meet a girl and we kind of like each other or something, it's actually both of us who are like, whoa, this needs some space, and some people might say, well, that's like, that's too holy, too sacred, right? That's just because you were raised Catholic and the Catholic Church broke your brain as to what sensuality is, right? What intimacy is, none of these things, what physical relationship or sex is, what intercourse is, what various sexual acts are, and so it's silly because in some sense, Catholics are right. I think, don't have sex until marriage, get to know each other, make sure that he's not putting the pussy in a basket and stuff like that. These are good advices. These are good advices for guys. But it's also, I could say, well, it's just like, what time of day are we going to crank down? She asks me this and I say, I'm not ready yet. Or I ask her and she says, yeah, we're going to crank down at 9 a.m. We're going to crank down at 11 p.m. too. Those are our crank times, 9 and 11, 9/11. The real 9/11. And so to me, it's like, well, that is actually just as accurate of a question and a way to answer that question as the Catholic Church offers you. God in the Bible, one of the evidences that Christianity is wrong, the Bible's not real. And guys, write this down, jot this down. One of the evidences is God didn't talk about when you can crank it solo and when you hook up with a chick, what you do. Well, cranking down is either a mutual shared intercourse with a person, or alternatively, it's self auto stuff, self gratification. Yeah. Jesus, God didn't, they talked about spilling seed, but they didn't really talk about, the time of the year, what creates the chemistry. Yeah, that's it. Hell yeah. Yeah. But that's the implication, right? When we talk back about political implication or things like this, there's also an implication for relationship teaching or moral lessons. If God cares about whatever, he cares about your diet or something, he cares about what you believe about morality. God cares about what you think about, science. God cares about what you think about war. God cares about what you think about helping the poor. God cares about what you think about poetry. God cares what you think about women, but there's implications to all of this, right? Uh, some people my favorite argument against this is saying that, hey, well, if you are presenting false information, you're giving false teachings, the implication is that isn't that you have an opinion, it's that you have power, right? Because the implication then tells us that, well, you're not telling me to believe in something true. You're not telling me about a justified true belief. You're not telling me about something that is agnostic or gnostic. You're not telling me about something that is ascetic, that you have taken out sort of your sense of self in order to go pursue. You're not telling me about something that is social or antisocial or whatever you have. Whatever, it doesn't matter. None of this matters. You're just telling me that you have, you're not telling me about monogamy or polyamory. You're not telling me any of this stuff. You're telling me a prescription from your book. And so the other side of this, on the other side of this, there is no just like go do whatever you want to do. It's just saying that source of information, that one book was wrong. And the righteous are absolutely not justified by faith alone. You wouldn't grant that to someone that is executing innocent people. I know you wouldn't. If somebody had imprisoned someone because they had faith they did something wrong, what a prototypical example of how that is totally untrue. Jesus was also wrong about a few things. Yeah, I try to respect my boy Jesus in the gospel from time to time, but when people try to jam a false version of Jesus down my throat, it's like, yeah, well, if you're going to tell me that's how you really think, let me tell you how I really think. I don't need to hear that much of it. Jesus was necessary wrong. In Jeebus' name, hit the sea lion. Hell yeah, brother. Hit the like, hit the subscribe if you guys like the content. We chilling today a little bit. We got a good chat room going. Shout out to everybody that's here tonight. Happy Friday night. Hopefully you guys are having a good time. I try to bring a little energy. I'm working on getting better at a lot of this stuff. I love it. I love this time because we got people in the US. We also got people all over the world who get to tune in, either get to listen, enjoy the show, hopefully. Or, if, you're just here to listen, to learn, to read, to kind of see what other people on the channel are talking about. Just be on YouTube. Enjoy your time. Happy Friday night. All the love out to all of you guys, right? That's what John Legend said. It's all of me for all of you. I cut my crust off of my nuggies. I hang out with my best buddies. Oh yeah, baby. Jesus should have denounced slavery. Absolutely. The story of chattel slavery in the Bible is horrendous. It's horrendous. It's horrible. Horrible. Jordan, I don't know if you've been here or if I know you, but yeah, that's absolutely a great point. Chattel slavery in the Bible isn't looked down upon, it's celebrated. In the Quran, it's regulated. They got your rules. Hey, you're a slave, you're an economic participant, I'll cut off your hand, bro. That's what the Quran is like, That's what Islam is like, And so the disrespect is that, you expect other Muslims to read this who don't agree with that aspect of the Quran to then use Quranic law to somehow disprove or invalidate or show it's inconsistent, right? That's absolutely not fair. It's just someone is allowed to just have the opinion outside of, that book, that you shouldn't have a slave and you shouldn't have laws for that slave and you shouldn't commit violence against a person. You're allowed to just think that way. Congratulations. Kings and dictators made changes in the Bible tons of times and they didn't want. Yeah. I mean, with Constantine, he made it a state religion. And so this was 300 years after Jesus, basically. Constantine made Christianity and Catholicism the official faith of the empire. And this was hugely impactful. It showed that Christianity did sort of involve Roman bureaucracy from the beginning. You still have Jesus hierarchically teaching to people. You also have seemingly the respect, there's maybe some respect paid to Pharisees. Christianity still includes the Torah and the books of the Old Testament. And it goes all the way to Revelations. You leave this space that there's still this prophetic sort of judgment against people. And so when you wonder what tools a leader or a dictator or a king has using a book like Christianity, they're all in there. Every single book is in there. Go actually see what are the bad stories that people brought up. Go actually see what you should be learning in Catholic school. I went to a Catholic school, but what you should be actually learning isn't just how the saints suffered, but it's how the people around them suffered too. And guess what? All of these stories, millions of them, hundreds of thousands of them, every religion. Nobody had anything to solve for any of these things. They never did. And guess what? There always was a reasonable explanation back to religion to some extent, Yeah, we always have our human nature with us. So give people a break, Jesus isn't going to change who you were, or he wouldn't have been Jesus. Jesus is changing who a person is. He wouldn't have been Jesus. However, that's not an excuse for someone to take a sort of idea of a savior and then say, well, now that's all just bigger and better than all of us. That doesn't make any sense to me. The Bible is super old. Yeah. Trinitarian and Unitarian Christianity, which is more sound to you? I would let chat answer that one. I tend to think Unitarian Christianity. Unitarian, to me, it's like if God wiggles his finger or something and he has an opinion about it, well, it's still because that version of God would be wiggling his finger. I think the story of Jesus loses coherence when you talk about God walking around in a man's body on earth. What is suffering then? What is it actually to make a decision towards servitude? These types of things. But I was raised Catholic. So I also think Trinitarianism is consistent and coherent. And there's many people, Catholics would say, well, some people you pray to God, but then you don't see God acting out there. You might be pretty sad about it, but the Holy Spirit seems to come in and take care of things when things get really bad. And so I have a lot of respect for that sort of thinking and stuff like that too. I just don't think the philosophy is good as, just atheism or just kind of taking it as, kind of as it comes, what it is. It's not my job to regulate that, though. The Ethiopian Bible. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to correct people that know more than me about, the historicism of it. Derek from Myth Visions, one of the guys I've gotten talked to a little bit, but I've also, I subscribe to his channel. So if you guys like spending longer streams on mythology, there's a lot of different channels out there, and they do like taking that history and putting it next to different versions of things. But as far as I know with Ethiopia, I think it's like another form of like neocolonialism to say, well, there is, obviously the history of just the book in religious faith, there's someone to have that conversation, but people should also appreciate that whether it's Ethiopia or Eritrea or Kenya, Sudan, a lot of these places in the Sahel and sort of central or, central northwestern Africa, whatever it is, they have a long history themselves. A lot of the countries that are stretched as part of the African Union right now, long 6,000 older history than like Israel and Palestine, older history. Same sort of like trading structures, coinage, all kinds of dope stuff. So. I cannot do Christian metal songs. I cannot do Christian metal songs. Have you ever ran over a baby squirrel? No. I was talking about I've seen two ducks getting hit by cars in the road. Stuff makes me sad to see. Hate seeing birds get hit by cars. I hate if I see a cat or a dog that got hit by a car. That stuff makes me really sad. Take care of your pets, and be mindful. Even right, you're not the king of the castle, not the king of the jungle. If you got birds in the trees by your house, they're part of your homestead. So that's it. They're part of your home. This is the way. That is the way. The Bible is ancient. Modern day people are not really in accordance with 2,000-year-old text that has been changed many, many times throughout history, throughout kings trying to maintain power. Cool. Yeah, the Bible was written over a long period. I'm not a historian or scholar of the Bible. It's written over a long period of time. There's different versions of a lot of the different books. There's different translations of all of them. And yeah, the context does shift even in the original language. Like language just wasn't always that precise back then. It's one of the things people in my opinion, interestingly study, stupidly argue about. So the Trinity is blasphemy. The Bible, it's 10 Commandments. Yeah, okay. I've been shown before there are Bible verses that contain two different gods. So if you're a Christian and you like that, maybe you can Google that or something. Many Trumps have come and gone in 2,000 years. Trumps equals hitters for those who don't know. Yeah, I think that even aggrandizes Trump and puts him at the sort of conversation he wants to be. Is Trump capable of maintaining a marketing narrative around geopolitics? I don't think so. People would say his 2016 presidential stint, the first presidential term in the US, was just really bad. He didn't really get anything done. It backed into a completely disastrous COVID C-19 sort of response. 1 million people died in the United States. The US had like the number of cases and deaths in the US wasn't like 3 times or 4 times, but it was hundreds and thousands of times higher than other places. So, and so that's Donald Trump. If you're president and you can't respond to a public health crisis or safety, you're not only going to get criticized, but when you don't accept the criticism, that's going to be your legacy as well. Right. And so I don't think Donald Trump is a heavy hitter. I don't think Donald Trump is a leader. He's not a magnate. He's not an icon. Donald Trump is an idiot. He's an idiot, dude. Shout out, respect to folks who decided to become MAGA Republicans. Come back. I don't know where you would go to. I probably have the best conservative opinions and advice on the internet right now. When you look at clowns like Charlie Kirk, you look at clowns like conspiracy theorists like Tim Pool, these selfish idiots. They said they were libertarians, but what did they do? They wanted to take 100 hours of your time and indoctrinate you to become more hateful towards other people, and to teach you to celebrate the fact that people could choose. You could choose to be dumb if you wanted to. An idiot stuff, dude. If I was put here to talk about Jesus, I'm screwed because I'm not starting now. Hey, what's going on? Peaky Blinder AR, if you're still in chat, shout out. What's up? Yeah, we ain't doing like super deep Christian debates. I'm an atheist. I'm a Buddhist atheist. I like science and stuff like this. And yeah, creating a space where I think we can have faith or faith-based beliefs, respect others' faith beliefs, and also just have irrational beliefs. Like an irrational belief is I'm comfortable if I have a warm light in my room. I like an orange light bulb, not a yellow light bulb. That's an irrational belief, but that can also be a true belief. I like doing workouts in my driveway with dumbbells. Even if they're lighter dumbbells, I think I get a better workout. Okay, that's an irrational belief. There's not a reason for that. It doesn't matter if you experienced it, it's Gnostic or something. That's still an irrational belief. It's not about physics. It's not about math. But yeah. Yeah, alien atheist, don't worry. By the way, I haven't even gotten down to your comment yet, but you know, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this. Katy Perry was accused of rubbing her vagina on someone in an Australian nightclub, and she's being investigated for sexual assault. It's kind of crazy. You know, I'm always worried for the manosphere because people tend to want to make these stories about things that they're not, you know, but who knows? If she committed a crime, she did it personally. But, you know, oh, obviously, now I really care about this. All the content comes out. Have you ever had spontaneous sex in a church building? Actually, the first girl I wanted to date was a evangelical Christian, a Bible Christian. She was very beautiful. Yeah. She was very cool and very beautiful. She was both of those things. And she was a Christian. And we did go to church fairs and stuff together. Unchanging truths? But let's say I discover an equation that can fit on a grid, like an XY axis or something later, an XY axis. And so, yeah, so, you know, I discover this equation. It has these two variables, these two dimensions to the equation, and it fits very neatly on this XY axis. And so this is true. You accept the equation is a mathematical proof, and then you can also see with your eyes, you know, the grid, right? So you've got both components of it. That's just how it works. You know, maybe there's a, you know, whatever. But then later we discover a new spatial configuration. You know, there's a new way, it's not an XY axis, but there's a new way this equation and the two dimensions that are on it could be understood. You know, who knows? I don't know, like a scalar doing in a vector space or something. I don't know if that's a real thing. I don't know, whatever, something like that. And so, you know, that's a truth that sounds like it's changing, right? But both are true. So, you know, and it's not just because we discovered it. It really is just an invention that just kind of, to me, in my opinion, seems to sit alongside things. When's the last time I took a shower? I don't know, a couple weeks ago, a couple days ago, yesterday. I would like to hold my hand. You don't vote politics? Yeah, people are getting down on it. Charlie Kirk was doing his best and was sacrificed by a dumb whatever. Charlie Kirk wasn't doing his best. He was a hateful bigot, and he had no respect for other people. He felt his ideas were big enough that he didn't have to respect other human beings at all. He didn't have to respect their time, their personhood. He didn't have to respect himself. That's the reality of it, though. So, what a bummer. What a bummer. Dumb as the Trinity. Yeah. Oh, sick. Charlie Kirk was a virtual infinity, man. No, he didn't get a college degree. Yes, he was trying to make decisions for your kids and other people's families. Yes, he also supported genocide. Yes, he also supported mass warfare casually. No, Charlie Kirk certainly didn't volunteer to join the military. The guy was a dunce. Oh my God, an atheist. Trump and Ball. Hey, tell me how you know the answer. Which answer? Atheist knows the truth. I can answer that simply. It's because I don't claim for ambitious truths unless you ask me for it. Right? You know, I'd rather you say you know all of the answers right now. Okay, well, tell me then. Tell me then. I don't know where you are, where you're from, or what you believe in, but tell me what truth it was. Tell me which truth it was right there. I'll wait. I'm not in a rush. Yeah, I can read a textbook. I'm happy you make fun of me about my textbook on occasion. Not really, but I'm happy if you want to make fun of me about that because I'm not hurting another person. Go look at Christianity. Go look at Judaism. Go look at Islam. Go look at Hinduism. What do you get back out of it? Yeah. Everything's perfect and joyful all the time, right? Why was Jesus murdered? Well, according to Pontius Pilate, it's because he broke the law. They certainly didn't have free speech back then. According to many others, he was a martyr. He was a martyr. He was a political dissident. Yeah. You an atheist? This is Three Man Who Asked If I'm an Atheist. Yes, sir. How heavy lifts, brother. You know why I'm an atheist? Is because I like the BSD stuff. I'm not going to lie. You know, I want somebody to drop a full essay that I can read, and I'm only going to get 5% of it right away. So I like the big swinging D stuff. I like heavy hitters, Bo. I like the thud, you know. I like the baby crack, you know. Da 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 da. I like MGK before he discovered, you know, the bass guitar. That's what I like. Gel King. I don't know what that is. Tiff Hitchinson. Sorry, I wish I knew. I wish I know. What's up, my GG? What's your long-term goals? Oh, gameplay. What's up? What's your long-term goals and what's your inspo to keep moving forward in life? Yo, bro, to be honest, I have some low-key depression. So personally, I ain't trying to give that to you guys, but personally, I still like reading. I like exercising and stuff like this. You know, just knowing I like having like a clean room. I like cooking when I have time, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And so all kinds of inspirations. There's a lot of people on the internet I look up to, a lot of people in real life I want to see what they accomplish. Those are all inspirations to me, right? And yeah, long-term goals. Yeah. Right now, since I'm talking to you on YouTube, I really do like YouTube. I do want to keep going with the channel. Yeah, I want to build a community. I'd like to be able to, like, honestly, either be able to facilitate guests or have, either present content, present stuff, have a bit, enough people that want to watch on like the PC format. But I also like this, right? On mobile right now, this is like the digital commons to me, not going to lie. That's how I see it. Is there's nowhere else in the world that, like on Quora, Reddit, you can go talk to people, but on here, you can, you have a global community right here. So, even if it's 6 or 7 of us, maybe there's 900 views on the stream at the end of it. That's 900 people around the world that want to talk about science or politics or whatever. And it's not anything more than that. So that is instant enough, I guess. Did she rub it on the veteran too? Do you believe in reptilians? Yeah, I hell if I know. There's veterans in chat not sending me money. What's up? How bad are you guys? No, I'm just kidding. I'm stolen valor, guys. You guys got to support me. You guys are my heroes, Do you believe in reptilians? Hell no, brother. Cryptids. Other cryptid stuff are pretty cool. Chat cryptid GPT. No peep shows. Extraterrestrials, cool, man. Have you guys ever had extraterrestrial experiences? I've thought about it a lot. What it would be like to have a perception that one was abducted. That would be crazy. What it would be like to have a perception that foreign creatures that are not like us have visited you. That would be insane, dude. That'd be crazy. My uncle Tio, my aunt Tia, that would be crazy, dude. Right in line with a lot of it, dude. Is that everybody? When was the last time you felt hatred? I've never felt hatred towards the Israelis. Never felt hatred towards the Palestinians. You know, to me, my bias that I'm very well aware of is that if I look at the Lebanese political structures or some of the Palestinian political structures, how the process is played out, there's some things that are less consistent with my values and the types of society I would like to raise my kids in. But however, I was very disappointed with the coverage of the Palestinian-Israeli war. I'm still very disappointed. I was disappointed, including at Al Jazeera. It seemed like these propaganda networks tacitly wanted the fighting to continue, right? It seemed like Fox News, Charlie Kirk, absolutely. These guys are such assholes because they want to sell the Palestinians or the Israelis weapons. They want to keep US bases over there. We got to stay here, bro. We got to keep funding it. And so if it takes 100,000 innocent Palestinians, 100,000 people this year, right? Just this year alone, that's what we'll talk about. Horrible, guys, horrible stuff. But then you have, then you have Al Jazeera, and they're like, hey, maybe those, maybe the white man is right. Yeah. Hey, maybe the white man is onto something, Chicano. Maybe he got you right, dude. That is the way. We're going to go get Gloria Steinem to talk about war, dude. We're going to go get Gloria Steinem to talk about this geopolitics now, eh? Yeah. Who else can we get to talk about it? You guys aren't inclusive like we are of the issue. When you understand the issue of violence, you can talk about it better. And Fox News is like, yeah, we understand violence. We are Fox News. Nope. And guess what? Now, if your dumbass kid signed up to join the dumb military, who does he work for? Well, doesn't matter. He's a dipshit. Works for Donald Trump. So, yeah, get to voting, buddy. Get to voting, buddy. Yeah. My son graduated high school barely with a 2.3 GPA. And just when I thought he couldn't be any more accomplished, the dumb fuck signed up for the military under Donald Trump. Yeah. Popular, unpopular, whatever. I believe in interdimensional entities, aka aliens. Hell yeah. Charlie Kirk lost the right to the Second Amendment by a long shot. Yeah, I didn't think it was that funny or ironic that Charlie Kirk got shot after talking about it being willing to die by gun violence to defend the 2A. I mean, there obviously is some very high level, A-tier irony in that. However, it is also a case of a human being murdered, as it were, I think. Yeah, I reckon the feller had it out for him. Pretty keen idea. Not in a sense of praise, but he certainly did it. Somebody did. Crawled right up there. Yeah. He probably had this delusional moment, this is the weird thing is, people are portraying him like a heat-seeking missile, but I really wonder if he had this 1 in a million, the choir of angels are singing where he thought about it and he just goes there to wonder if he can do it. And then he sees that, where they're probably going to be doing the event, there is unfettered roof access or something like this. And so you have a delusional person basically being reinforced by his surroundings that he's less delusional than he actually is. Yeah, and so that's not about 2A at all. But it sort of is, right? It sort of is, if you actually think critically about it and think for yourself, well, you can't, there's no, litmus test for that to own a firearm in the US. Anyone can have a gun. Anyone can have a pew pew. Anyone can get something with a scope. There's no like, they don't sell you something and you're like, oh well, if you want to go hear the bang and stuff like that and shoot stuff at 20 yards, but you have to have it descoped or scoped by a professional, it's scope locked, bro. Or there's no capacity lock on it, whatever. So, get off my property, you hooligan. I tell you once with the broomstick, I'll tell you a second time with the boomstick. Charlie Kirk queefed it. I gotta keep that one, dude. I tell you once with the broomstick, I'll tell you the second time with the boomstick. Yeah. How would you describe an atheist? Well, do you guys see me as an atheist? Do you guys see me as an atheist? I told you guys I was an atheist. It wasn't that long ago, actually. Yeah. It wasn't that long ago that I was an atheist. I told you guys that. Charlie Kirk, low IQ. Donald Trump, low IQ. Irresponsible, right? What happens, if you guys decide to go to the mean corners of the internet, you guys get really rude and nasty, They're going to stick you in with a bunch of freaking, people playing video games, talking to game characters, talking to competitors, and you guys are going to start thinking that that's what politics and stuff is like. It isn't. It isn't what politics is like. It isn't what like an identityless society is like. It's not what like Gen Z is like, or social media is like, or the world is like. No, it's the digital commons. You still have all the other stuff even before idiots like me, dumb millennials came along and started playing video games and talking in the world. The world is still just exactly what it was, right? And so you're either the person who spent years and years deeply caring and exploring it, or alternatively, you're a great friend, right? You're a friend. You're someone I can talk to, confide in. I can share stuff when I'm frustrated or upset, or because of what I'm learning, or I can learn a lot from you. We have the conversation, these types of things. But Charlie Kirk, Donald Trump, they didn't care about having the conversation. They cared about like acidic vinegar talk, They cared about, playing guys who don't really want to have guns, having guns or something or whatever. Or that's not right. That's not cool, dude. Yeah. What is this, sport? This is a sport rifle. I don't know. Charlie Kirk let Erica Quirk fart in his mangina. All right, that's kind of valid. Big back. Hey, what's up? Yeah, I got a big back. Somebody needs something? What's up? Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, his wife is sus. Yeah, a lot of people would say Erica Kirk continued the exact same Christian national delusional not messianic, but actual like delusional sense of whatever this organization was doing. Saying up is down or left is right never becomes more accurate, and saying that, well, we just get away with it. We're just planting a lot of different flags. Well, no, you're not. That's exactly what I was meaning. And it's not even exactly what I was meaning. Who knows how you're, sick little brain, you're mentally unwell, you're sick in the head, and you're telling people to go even deeper, to be sick in the head, to go watch you plant flags places. No, right? Do you know what's bigger than you? Having whatever the number is, 250,000 people are going to enlist under Donald Trump or some number. Those people are all going to be actual dumb fucks after serving under Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth. Those people are going to be fucking idiots. Yeah. Hey, what did you learn? What did you go do? No, actually, what did you go do? I don't know. What did you sign up to go do in the first place? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't matter. We're a band of brothers, man. I'll have you know, I understand that. Here's the litmus test, Here's the litmus test. You meet the guy who just doesn't really care that much, man or woman. They say, hey, well, those are my helicopters and my tanks. If I had my, my laurels about it, we'd toss your ass over the wall. When you come back, if you come back, whoever you come back with, you can go ask again, hey, whose shit is all that? Is that yours or is that someone else's? Right. That's mine, and yeah, you want to, oh, we got to disagree and go argue this now, right? Of course. Yeah, please do. But, when you come back and you ask, did you want the shit back? You and the buddies that you came back with, did you want the shit? You're still going to have to reckon the fact, well, that was Donald Trump's shit at that point in time. That was Pete Hegseth's shit. Did you want the stuff? It's up to you, right? Totally up to you. Ain't no change in it, I suppose. You can get a bucket of fried chicken. Reckon that's helped? Let's go ask him, ask her. You're confused about it, right? Yeah. But, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, go use your veteran benefits and get a degree and become a Democrat, right? That's what I want. Yeah. Do I like sadomasochism? S&M? Yeah, I don't have a strong opinion about fetish stuff. Not really. Personally, I won't share too much, but I'm not that adventurous. And so yeah. I mean, I think even being really on like whatever. I'm trying to be honest because you asked a question. This is from David Amalia. But yeah, this is just my preference, is like being on the edge of what a person is comfortable with. To some people that means you can still be doing fetish stuff, or you can talk about it. It just not organically comes up or something, whatever, who knows. But for other people, it's like a hard no-go zone, or for other people, it's like that's not even where they want to stop. And so, yeah. I personally, yeah, whatever, not really. Not really. Or you're an atheist because you're gay. Yeah, I mean, if you want to associate me with the LGBTQIA movement, I once again consider myself an ally. And yeah, I'm also, yeah, I'm happy to call myself a, queer heterosexual guy. So whatever. Yeah. Yeah. God loves us no matter what. Cool. Okay. Probably. This is all from K and the user K my 5N5. God loves us no matter what, even if we poop our underwear. Yes, if you're asking, I have pooped my undies. God loves me anyways. Aw. Yeah, that's what a great person says. Joel says, why wouldn't pick you? Yeah, I'm way down. Some people have had extraterrestrial experiences. That's crazy to me. I'm skipping some stuff, so sorry. Have you watched The Vampire Diaries? No, should I? I'm looking for something to watch tonight at least. I should probably plug my phone in, by the way. Let me see. No, we're still okay. Still okay for right now, but no, should I? I liked Walking Dead. I like the movie Underworld and stuff like that. I don't like stuff that gets too far into world building and stuff like that as much. So I don't know. Yeah. But maybe, yeah, I watched Harry Potter. When things get really like character and personality development driven and stuff like that, I just can't keep up, so. Get your GI Bill and Lear to coal mine with one arm and one leg. Yeah, you got to go yeah, definitely, Once you serve for God and country, you're the guy who's going to get the black lung too. Just like Donald Trump wanted, right? That's pretty funny. It's not that funny, but inverted banana, I'll take the stuff. Cool. Guys, just because my phone it's not like dead, but it's slowing down, I'm going to put a super chat goal up. If anybody, and obviously not asking anyone to like actually seriously donate, but if anyone wants to donate something, yeah. Oops. Yeah, this is how it works here, folks. This is what really throws it down for me. Yeah, if anyone does want to donate some memberships or something, I'm happy to switch over and keep the stream going or whatever. But yeah. Let me leverage this. Let's see where we can get this thing to write. CoinTelPro regime. Let's get the CoinTelPro refresher. What was this one? Was this Gary Webb? Is this Gary Webb? No. Anti-communist, right? Communist potato. Hell no, brother. No, dude. Yeah. There's something to be had about the reason the CoinTelPro, right? And this is the weird thing is you probably don't want neoconservative Christian religious extremists executing a program like CoinTelPro. But there's also maybe like a competitive reason that you don't, the way it works is you build 30 international airports, you have millions of miles of roads, and then suddenly an idea comes in and just wants to take it over for itself, like a cancer, right? Like a cancer. And so it is very weird to think of, well, we have this illegal Spartan program that is violating people's civil liberties and rights called CoinTelPro, but it also sounds really weird that, well, it just so happens to be that you got bored of watching the Knicks and the Mets on television, and so now you're taking over things, right? Yeah. You have, right? You can both control the nuclear weapons that we now have, but you can also solve these environmental crises and convince the folks off Main Street to stop driving their V8 trucks, stop driving their big muscle cars, stop flying so much, stop building so many homes, stop going to work so often. Would have been a great thing. We would be living in a different world, like a socialist utopia. But yeah, when you ask, if I were to ask you, well, would communism have been acceptable in the same way that anti-regime, disruption operations in the former Soviet Union by the US, attempts to sabotage both institutional programs kind of as a huge fuck you, right? In that case. And in the other case, to actually undermine sort of, the base level support for the regime and the systems, you make people unhappy and you cost them, $50 or $100 million with a leaflet, right? That's a huge hit. That really sucks. That really slows some things down. You do it enough times, and you let them shoot themselves in their own foot a couple of times too. That's really bad, right? And that's a really cruel, nasty form of competition. It's really nasty, really cruel. It's very unsafe, very dangerous. You're lying because everything is a lie. Yeah. Chant. Bling will set you free. Bling will set you free. Bling will set you free. You guys want to see my money? Bling? The actual bling? Hell no, brother. Hell no. Dirthin. Wow, everybody left. Wow, everybody left. Just like that, guys. I see how it goes. Real nasty way to be, dude. Real nasty way to lose out. Whatever. I'm sorry. I apologize for the inconvenience. My phone shut down the application. I'm not sure why it was, but it is what happened. So I'm going to put this little background up. Kind of hang out a little bit, clear a little space off mentally, physically, otherwise. Bog the rattling bog. Hey Noah, good to see you. Trump is the best. And Trump knows my exact location, dude. Dude, wait. You guys gotta help me look out for the Dawn Man. If he's coming, I'm gonna dip out. I gotta run, brother. Hey, love from India. Hey, love to India. Shout out. Thank you for dropping in and saying hi. Love to you in India from me. Love from all over the world too. Hell yeah, let's go. Yeah, it's good to see you. Good to see you. It's good to see you. All right. I hope you guys have something exciting to say and do here. And yeah, shout out, right? Shout out. Is that right? Yeah. You can get everything tuned up a little bit for you, and hopefully for you guys it's working and all this. Yeah. Do you think being attracted to totally passable? Do you think being attracted to a trans woman is gay? Yeah, I mean, I think if you skip judgment on it a little bit, then yeah, that's cool, right? It's totally yeah. I don't know that you need to label it immediately or something like that. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. I'm in the Southwest United States, in Arizona. Arizona, yeah, cool place. Actually, I just got done. I was just working with this guy from Bangladesh for a while, but he's in North Carolina and from Texas, so he's been here for a while, but he still sounds like a Bengali guy a little bit. Cool guy though, for sure. Yeah, Arizona's awesome. Arizona's an awesome state, dude. Yeah. Oh my God. Ow. Uh, India's good. I think India's good. Um, you know, yeah. I don't know that much about Indian politics or the Indian systems. Um, you know, I think the interesting thing is people that I've known from India like to travel. They like to travel. They like to work. um, Usually a little more considerate about kind of pitching into conversations and stuff like that too. Um, but yeah, of course, like in India, there's slums and things like this too. And yeah, so so I think it's both. Yeah, it is both too. Right? They say "Cubby Cushy Cubby Gum," right? Everybody's dancing that day. So yeah, shout out India. From a political standpoint, India is both sort of forced to have some respect with China, kind of mediates some of the politics in the region, but also is forced to compete with China, you know, two most populous countries in the world. So, yeah, so all that stuff too. All that stuff too. Do you know any Indian YouTubers? Um, I don't know. There's this one guy named Indian Jesus who YouTubes, but I don't know that many. Yeah, I don't know that many Indians at all. So yeah. I wish I knew more, but yeah, I love politics. Yeah, I love doing politics. Usually, about half the live streams are politics, about half are something else. Tempe is cool. I really like Mesa too. Yeah, Mesa's sick. Mesa's really sick. Mesa sucked for a long time, right? No offense. I'm sure people that lived there liked it. I liked going to eat at Mesa restaurants and stuff, but um, there wasn't that much there. So cool. Hell yeah, brother. Yeah. I worked in Phoenix. I worked in Scottsdale. I used to work at there's this really cool co-working space across from Bank One Ballpark. So I had like an 11th story view down. It was like way over like a lot of the other stuff. Get on the elevator and it would zip, take you right up. Canada's cool too. Canada's cool. Yeah. Sometime in my life, I'd like to go to like Ontario or Montreal, I guess. I don't know if those are like tourist friendly cities. Um, yeah, yeah. So, um, yeah, and like, yeah. So, whatever, whatever. Women in Scottsdale are unbelievably beautiful. Same as everywhere else, I guess. Like the shopping districts and things like that. Yeah. You are sick for what you did. I don't know what you're talking about, but yeah, if you want to talk and not gaslight or something, that'd be cool. If there's something I can help with or a conversation we can have, that's cool too. But I think, that's also not like an intro to a conversation. And I hope you are good with that. Yeah, I hope you're um that, appreciative of that, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, bro. Alhamdulillah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if people like, geopolitics, US politics, that kind of stuff, I try to tune it to the audience as best as I can. Not an expert at it. But yeah, also, it's just nice to meet. Yeah. Nice to meet as well. You know, also nice to meet. Yeah. Hey, do you think that's okay, huh? Um, do you think that's okay, huh? I think it's okay for people to support each other and be nice to each other. And yeah, and don't be as super hard on yourself or anything like that. No one should be, right? I don't need to tell you that, obviously. You know, do you know Jordan Peterson? Yeah, not a huge Jordan Peterson fan. I'm not a huge Jordan Peterson fan. Jordan Peterson telling people, you have to have your purpose. I don't believe in that much. For Jordan Peterson, he's like, yeah, my beliefs really throw it down for me. It's one of the things that wakes me up and gets me going in the morning. I don't believe in that. You get going in the morning because you have your job or something like this. And if you're somehow different, well, okay. So, you say that's okay, but then it's not okay for people to ask you about your beliefs. Sina Vinit. Hey, what's up from India? Hello, Akanad Gaming. I can support my dad who cheated on my mom. Yeah, you can try. Definitely, you can try. Yeah, go for it. Go for it. Do you think that the veil covers who you are, but we see you? Um, cool, cool. Okay, yeah, that sounds cool. Sounds interesting. Interesting. That's my jam right there. Yeah, Walking Dead. I love that shit. Yeah, I was a political science major, so they definitely made like a fast-paced, exciting show. Very exciting. Very exciting show. It's very exciting all the time and all this other kind of stuff. Ugh. Um, yeah. but it kind of satisfied me because I like the characters, I like the action, I like the scenarios they put them in where they're building cities and stuff like that. All kinds of politics. Was it dumb to build Phoenix in the desert? Hell yeah, it was. Yeah. But yeah, you're gonna build cities everywhere, and so our two big utility companies, S&P as well as APS, um, you know, presumably they're going to be part of modernizing and creating more sustainable power grids and water recycling systems. Um, I would hope, but in Arizona, even though it's a desert, we also have people making drones, computer chips. Intel's a very big company that's out here. Um, uh, I could go on. There's aerospace like Honeywell. Um, yeah, actually, how I know a lot of Indians is I grew up in the same city where a lot of the aerospace and computer manufacturing companies were. And so, yeah, a lot of people would go graduate from IIT and then their parents would move out here, right, on a visa or something. So that's how I know India, right? That was my introduction to India, at least. The good parts, you know, whatever. So yeah, those were the Indians that I knew growing up. So yeah. Namaste to you as well. Yeah, Visa's falling. Yeah, and of course, hopefully, a White Devil. Cool. I'm okay with that. Oh, whoops. I mean to P-Dub, I accidentally deleted your message. I did not vote for Trump. I voted for Kamala Harris. Bog, bog, the Brooklyn bog. Da 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 da. All right, so here's the thing, right? Blah 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 blah. When we're talking about going from A to B, or creating a political story that's really going to turn things up a little bit. One of the things that always kind of gets me up and going in the morning is finding out a better way that we can relate to each other, better ways to have a conversation with people. Yeah. And so for me, one of the things that I think is most exciting is being able to vote for people like Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris wants people to be able to invest in technology and invest in better ways to see ourselves and how we relate to our communities in the here and the now. And so this is one of the most critical and value-added tasks that a person can be caught performing. One of these value-added tasks is that, like a lot of people, we have values and things that we think are the most important for ourselves and for other people in the here and now. And for other people, the things that are most important versus what's most important for us. When we create this dichotomy, the dichotomy that says that the most important thing is, maybe togetherness, it's the usefulness, the utility, and it's also being patient. It's just letting something come in. And even on social media, it's letting something come in and just relaxing a little bit, letting it sit for just a second, letting other people work on it a little bit with you. These are the types of things that I believe Kamala Harris represents. I believe Donald Trump represents greed. Donald Trump represents taking things. Donald Trump also represents people like Charlie Kirk, who was a very greedy, selfish person. Yeah. So there you go. There you go. You guys want to see who I think Donald Trump is? Toilet butt. Donald Trump is a butt toilet monster. That's who I think Donald Trump probably actually is. There's JD Vance. But another butt toilet monster, JD Vance. All right, India, Pop quiz. What is analysis? India, what is analysis? Analysis is a vector. Okay. All right. Everybody say Ja Rasta thing. Donald Trump doesn't know how to sing. Donald Trump comes from South Beach. He says shithole country, but he likes to pee in his own mouth. Oh, he pees in his own mouth. Hell yeah, brother. Let's fucking party, dude. Let's get fucking party on, brother. Hell yeah, dude. Shout out, shout out, shout out. Shout out 8, brother. It's a white devil, it's a disguise. I apologize. Is it too late to apologize? It's too late. I'm holding on my phone, got me 10 feet off the ground. I'm hearing what you say, but you just can't make a sound. You tell me that you need me, didn't have to turn around. I said, hey, tell me that you're sorry, didn't mean to let you down. But I'm afraid it's too late to apologize. It's too late. All right. I'm holding on my own, got me 10 feet off the ground. You tell me that you need me, didn't mean to turn around. But I'm afraid it's too late to apologize. Here's the thing that you guys don't understand. Here's the thing that Earth people don't understand. You didn't ask the question in the first place. 2 broken ends of the same wire. No, it isn't, right? This is a USB-C cable. There's lots of wires in here. They just happen to coalesce and transfer data from one end to the other, right? Photons. It's photons or electrons or something like that. I don't know. I ain't a scientist. And so when you go to try to change the world right away so fast, someone else's story isn't going to get told and you will not change the world. Okay? You want simple narratives like that, right? Or, you want a strategy that just goes everywhere, right? It's never good enough, is it? It's never good enough. And so you paralyze and freeze other people. And you say, do you know what you say to them? Do you know what you say to other people? You say, you got to go do better. You got to go do more. This is what humans are like to people. Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm holding on my own, got me 10 feet off the ground. I'm hearing what you say, but you just won't make a sound. You tell me that you need me, didn't need to turn around. But I'm afraid it's too late to apologize. It's too late. Reptilians begging for money, dude. I need the money. Holmes? You know how that is? Hey, send me a super chat. Thanks, dude. Buy some. I'm looking for 10 gifted. I'm looking for 10 gifted tonight, bro. Do you want to build a snowman? Come on, let's go and play. I never see you anymore. I'm out the door. It's like you've gone away. We used to be best buddies, but now we're not. I wish you could tell me why. Do you want to build a snowman? It doesn't have to be a snowman. Okay, bye. Do you want to build a snowman or ride our bikes around the hall? I never see you anymore. I've started talking to the portraits on the wall. How you doing, buddy? We used to be best buddies, but now we're not. I wish you could tell me why. Do you want to build a snowman? It doesn't have to be a snowman. Okay, bye. That's what I'm working on. That's what I'm about, brother. Hell yeah, brother. And I've been standing at the edge of the water long as I can remember, never really telling why. And I wish I could be the perfect daughter long as I can remember. I could lead with pride, I'd be satisfied. I would sing along, but the voice inside sings a different song. What is wrong with me? See the light at the side of the seas, it calls me. But no one knows how far I'll go. And the wind and the sails of the seas, it calls me. Hell yeah, brother. Do I support ICE? Fuck ICE, brother. Fuck ICE from up above and down below, dude. No. This is the thing, is Republicans wanted to prove AOC was wrong about abolish ICE, saying abolish ICE, campaigning on abolish ICE back in 2018. But guess what? She got elected, and now New York City, her very own home state, has a communist mayor, right? They said fuck ICE, and then again they doubled down and said fuck ICE. You know, that's the reality. I'm not trying to be too political or anything like this, but this is the reality of it. Is and nobody does. Nobody supports ICE here. Yeah, it's crazy. Nobody cares about ICE. But this is the crazy thing, is they tried to prove this wrong, but when they try to run the program, it gets worse, right? There is no ICE program. So, fuck everything Donald Trump did. I even saw these shill guys who claim to support AOC, claim to support Zohran Mamdani. And it's like, I don't care if you do or don't, but don't be a lying little baby sack of shit, right? And this is the crazy part is, I saw a bunch of these shill, big time, million subscriber progressive Democrat influencers. And when it actually comes down to brass tacks, they're willing to bend the knee to get advertiser dollars. They're willing to bend the knee for their audience. They're willing to bend the knee to create an understandable story instead of just telling the truth about how bad ISIS failed, right? And this is crazy because coming from me, I'm more conservative than some of these guys. But like, if my conservative, the parts of me that are conservative say, F ICE, screw these guys, hell yeah, brother, hell yeah. Erica Kirk, I'll go do free consulting for you because you guys are absolute dipshits, dude. Yeah, I will call my Uncle Tio. I will call the Chicano families up and I will say, hey, I am so sorry, but there is this economic opportunity for us to go work with the Charlie Kirk people. If you remember them, recall. And yeah, they want us to talk about how to fix ICE. Just make it a little better, a little more approachable. Not a little more Mexican, but just a little bit. You can get this Tom Homan guy. He's got a stick up his ass. So get some Bud Light, go get drunk with him. Maybe talk to Erica about an introduction. Yeah, you can get Antia, and Antia, she will. How Antia gets when she has these events to go talk about things that she cares about. She'll put on her very pretty pink dress. It'll be a little floofy. She'll pick out her favorite brooch. Antia, yeah, of course. And she will go and do you know what she will say to you? She'll say, Uncle Tio, you look so handsome, and I hope you just behave yourself tonight, and you are so prepared for this moment. And she'll go up to you and say, hey, Pablito, if you fuck this up, I'm going to hang you up by your little neck and I will leave you there for a week. Do not lie to the Charlie Kirk people about your opinion of ice unless they ask you to, and then you do lie. Leandro Sousa, no party like a Diddy Duck party. It's Daddy Duck, baby. Daddy Duck. Daddy Duck. Do you know every country and its borders? Hell no, brother. You guys can't keep track of that without fucking it up? Do you know every country has borders? Oh. Did you know every country does deportations? Yeah. Not every country hires 100,000 federal police officers in a year. That usually sounds like something that happens after a revolution because they are molesting women and kids, right? There's essay of women and kids. You do hire 100,000 police officers to go fix that. That's not what the United States is like. This is the funny thing. I'm still waiting. A lot of us conservatives and progressives are still waiting for the pro-ICE people to go tell us, well, what doesn't make sense to me was your wife scared to go out in public? That's what was happening. Your wife didn't trust herself going out in public. She would not go pick up groceries, right? The many times, like, let me see the one time or the hundreds of times she wouldn't drive through the barrio. She needed to go somewhere and she said, hey, Google, take the long route. I don't want to see the carniceria. I don't want to see the store for the quinceañera with the piñatas and the very pretty, the pink floofy dress. None of that, Google Maps. I don't trust these brown people. I don't know. When they show me their documents, it's totally different. But before then, sort of weird, dude. Yeah. And so, there is if you have just been at war and you have 200,000 soldiers who all have some form of PTSD and also really screwed up wartime metabolisms and stuff like this, and you're concerned about just the political process running for everyone, right? Your sons, your daughters got to get back to school. People have to show up to go vote for Congress stuff just for boring shit. And yeah, there's other people who've been selling, cantaloupes, selling little imported trinkets and shit like this, building little trinkets. They got to get back to their jobs. You've got your big, whatever it is, whatever you got a telecom or you got a tech, a little tech business. You're looking to get ISPs tuned up a little better, future ready. You got all this stuff you're looking to do. And yeah, you can't have these stories where just, towns on the outskirts are just subject to, SA and all this other stuff. So you hire a bunch of police officers. The United States was never like that. And that doesn't really throw it down for me because I had an opinion. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Waffle day today, yuppie. No, that's real. Hey, shout out to you, Kelly Lovato. Yeah, if you got a waffle that I can eat, a vegan waffle, or you got a topic I can waffle about, I'd love to do either of those things. Shout out to you. Did you do theater in high school? I wrestled in high school. I was a raffler. Yeah, my personal favorite story is ICE arrested this girl that was going to school in Arizona. She was from Guatemala. I've had team members, I've had coworkers at my company in Guatemala, right? They're in Guatemala, people in Mexico City, and we're doing the same exact thing, but they took this girl from Guatemala. She was up here on a student visa. She had proper documentation, and they threw her in jail, and they lost her for a week. They put her in jail while she had documentation, and she's a girl going to college, right? She had committed no crime, and Donald Trump would say, well, oh, she didn't molest someone, she didn't murder someone, she didn't sell crack cocaine to someone. This is how dirty and disgusting Donald Trump is. He's such a nasty tool, He's such a disgusting, nasty tool, getting this back down to something actually honest for people. Yeah, what an absolute douchebag. But anyway, so ICE arrests this 18-year-old girl, and They lose her for a week, and her lawyer's like, well, what the F, right? I'm telling you as her lawyer, when she sees the judge is going to say that she shouldn't be in jail, but I need to talk to her because she's also, as it stands, in jail, and that's my client. And they lost her. They couldn't find her. And so some time goes on, and turns out, she turns up and she's released. But yeah, she should have like $100 million lawsuit against the federal government. Whatever they decide damages for that are, you get ripped out of class, you get ripped, a bag thrown over your head, you get moved through a prison system, denied your civil liberties, denied access to your lawyer, the very practical things you need. And this is while you're going to school here. Yeah, you should be able to sue Tom Homan for the rest of his budget if that's what Donald Trump wanted it for. It's absolutely stupid. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's like literally the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I don't remember her name. I got a picture of it somewhere. I don't know what it was. Yeah, we got to get them all in a big sheet. My grandfather worked for NASA, loved the shirt. Cool. That's awesome. Yeah. Do you ever play music on your stream? Sometimes, not that often. If you see neon lights, if I put like lights on my laptop or something, then I'll have some music going. But yeah, not that often. Yeah, we're all about the grift, bro. No, we're talking. No, so tonight we talked about the pinned story a little bit. We're talking about the priestess that asked the Madagascar president to sell a COVID vaccine. So very much a very Donald Trumpian story. And then more politics channel. So typically it's politics, philosophy, religion, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, I want to get the whole technology restream StreamYard set up at some point. Yeah, it's what the grift is for, so I can afford to upgrade the stream and stuff like that. Have that format availability or something. Like one side, are we hardcore one side? I don't know who we are, but or what we are. I tend to vote progressive, but I don't know what you mean by saying we are hardcore one side. Like, if I can repeat back Donald Trump's policies in context and then disagree with it, that's not being hardcore one side, right? It just happens to be the case. There's dumb people murdering a lot of people in the world, right? And we can speak like that too if you wanted to talk like that. Yeah, you can bring Grandpa's gun closet to come talk to me about why Donald Trump is a good president if you want. No. I mean I like geopolitics and stuff too. I like talking about like political theory, like cosmopolitanism and global identity. Yeah, I like yeah, and so it's kind of like a sports team in some sense that yeah, there's a lot of different positions in politics, stuff like that. Yeah, yeah, cool. Yeah, who knows? Yeah, we do sometimes culture stuff and stuff like that, but and it's just yeah, it's YouTube mobile as well, so a lot of subscribers and myself just like kind of BSing and chatting and stuff too, but yeah, it does come back around to politics from time to time, as well, right? As well. So Second Amendment is America. Heck yeah, brother. Heck yeah, brother. Sort of, not really. I told this story earlier. One of my friends from high school and college, he's from high school. He got killed in the Aurora, Colorado Batman movie theater shooting by that neuroscience guy. What was his name? James something or another. I forgot his James Holmes. Yeah. The Wikipedia just says James Holmes, mass murderer. Yeah. He shot my friend in the back of the head with a 223. Yeah. Yeah. So he busted in the movie theater. My buddy dived on his girlfriend at that time. And yeah. And so this guy was, as reckoned, he went into the movie theater to shoot some people. And he did. Yeah, he did. And so, he threw a bunch of smoke grenades and flashbangs like a Call of Duty movie. And my buddy got shot a few times in the back, but one of them went through the back of his head. Yeah. So he was very dead. Yeah. So if you say 2A is life, yeah, there's this guy who, my buddy was getting his master's in psychology at the time. He was engaged to get married, but just in the politics of it, yeah, he was getting a master's, and the guy that shot him was a neuroscience student. Yeah, he was a neuroscience student who had previously talked to people. He had a lot of his own mental issues. He'd been, I think, diagnosed, or they recommended a diagnosis of like narcissistic psychopathy or something like this. So he had these violent urges and had this perception of his beliefs. But yeah, he still ended up with full body armor. He ended up with multiple firearms, all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah. Yeah. And so that was Alex. That ended up, was a huge nerd. He was a huge Batman fan. So he went to go see the movie because it was opening night. And then, yeah, James Holmes busted in and, he saved his girlfriend's life. But the guy was shooting right at him, obviously, because Alex got hit like 5 or 6 times. Yeah. And so, the one that went through the back of his head, because it was a, 223 hypersonic round, was instant, obviously, and it hit him in the brain. So like instantly fatal too. But yeah, when people say, 2A is life or something, it's like, well, I don't know which one you're going to be, right? You're the brain surgeon who's going to, get an argument at a Dairy Queen or something, at Chick-fil-A. Or you're the guy who is just there. And so your middle ground is letting people know who you are. So you're John Wayne, right? This isn't the broomstick, this is the boomstick. And so you're walking around showing people that you got a 6-gun on you, or, your little Sig Sauer, or whatever it is, whatever makes your little dick feel better about how fucking sad and pathetic you actually are. The fact that you got lied to once and you just went with it. So that's your belief. Yeah, 2A, that's awesome, right? That's amazing. We have laws for this stuff. We've got laws protecting people's right to be like this. It's absolutely stupid. That's the dumb stuff, and then people are like, well, I'm responsible, and, having more responsible firearm owners keeps us safer. And you decided all of that. You decided all of that all on your own or with your buddies, as it turns out. Hey, what up? We got a verified. Hey, we got another YouTube content creator, CMY. What are you waiting for? That's never coming. Yeah. What do you mean? I mean, and so, yeah, these people that make the choice to, they say they own and they deeply spent the time, but it's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I know a socket wrench, but I don't actually know physics, right? And so, no, you don't actually know everything. You don't know the full argument. Somebody does. Somebody here must. They must, right? But you don't need to know that to go get food in the United States. You don't need to know any of that stuff to go get food in the United States. And so arguing that, the 2A just extends and extends and extends, and then when it gets pulled back, you have to figure out a way to re-extend it. That doesn't make sense, right? That's not how any of that stuff actually works. And And now we're talking about this instead of talking about people who do have personality things ranging from personality quirks to full-blown mental illnesses that means that society is a risk to them and they're a risk to society. There are problems, there are political and social problems in the world today. And to pretend like those top-down forces don't negatively influence things is absolutely absurd. It's absolutely absurd. Yeah. Super incredible argument, isn't it? Isn't it an incredible argument? It's absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. And this is Donald Trump's America as well. The thing that Donald Trump wanted to do to make Republicans think like make America great again, which doesn't make any sense, is he wanted to steal, rob, lie, and cheat, not just not just your taxes to go kill people you've never met, but he's also wanted to rob you. He's wanted to rob you of the way in which you became successful. If you're in the United States, you're in Canada, you're in Britain, you're in Western Europe, Donald Trump wanted you to become a liar, a cheater, a murderer. He wanted you to sit on your thumb and be silent, and that's how you got rich. And you're just okay with it. The people you always looked up to, the people you love to hate or love to look up to and mythologize, all these mysterious generals, right? The real two-way guys, right? The CIA motherfuckers, all the people that you wanted to talk about and never look up to. When Barack Obama had Michael Hayden, flopping his dingus out, and the UN knew who this guy was, right? This guy was a problem, then all of a sudden, well, this must be, this is Obama's no birth certificate, or they're stealing elections, or Obama's still too young to lead, or, Obama's too loud, or whatever problem you had at that time with Barack Obama, you had a problem. And then all of a sudden you have all of the history rushing up, and somebody suffers, or somebody's suffering, a bad event happens, there's no answer for it in politics, and it's just the case too that that's happening over the world, and you could have done something about it. The United States had been doing things about some of it, and you can't get over the fact that part of this to blame is JD Vance, Donald Trump, and encouraging people to sit silent while it gets worse. Yeah. So whatever. Yeah, and then so that's another fun game. Wait. So when I search college student ICE, and we've got like literally the first story, I'm pretty sure is who I was talking about. The second, the third, the fourth story. Judge order ignored ICE. Yeah, so that's really funny. When I search judge ordered ICE, a University of Arizona international student named Yazin Halhul was detained in an ICE. This is a different one. So this is a different college student, right? Not the people Donald Trump wanted you to talk about. And so that's so funny. You guys see how the rhetoric works, is that if you support Donald Trump, you have to lie to people. You tell people that doing a 3-word Google search is too much information for you to support. Is that really what you're saying? I imagine that you do this all the time. But when it comes to someone else's civil rights or liberties, it's too much for you. That's absolutely nonsense. Hey, Robin, good to see you again, too. Someone Googled 18-year-old lost for a week in ICE custody in Guatemala City. Trump must be blocking them from the internet. Really crazy. So you're just changing the story. What are you talking about? I don't get what you don't understand about someone being ripped out of their class and lost in an ICE detention facility. Like that isn't you're trying to continue, like for social media sake, you're minimizing the story and minimizing it again and minimizing it again. And so what you want is Charlie Kirk being racist and bigoted, and you want equally, right? Charlie Kirk's not powerful, he's not influential, he's not meaningful, he's not useful. He was a dumb fucking kid who got shot in the neck. right? A fucking idiot. And so you want him going on the internet and arguing with a bunch of fucking morons talking about, well, we can talk and go as wide out as you want. And, there's lots of conversations that are interesting we can have about the circumstances of stuff. You guys are political extremists. You're a rightist, or you're a righty, you're a leftist, you're a MAGA Republican, or, I'm a progressive, but I'm also a democratic socialist. Yeah, all for your fucking sanity and peace of mind. Not a single fucking utterance of justice. Do you know how absurd that is? You should be ashamed of yourself. You should be absolutely ashamed of yourself. I would listen to myself. You guys can't actually pick up a political conversation to use your voice to defend a person who needs your support in a democracy in the world, right? You guys can't use your voice, and so I'm the bad guy for saying what it is. Absolutely insane. Yeah. TDS said, yeah, exactly. Another small scale conversation. So you can start another landscaping business. So, more far right MAGA-teers about, my dumb fucking kid can't read in fucking 8th grade, and fuck the federal government for it. And I have TDS, right? You guys can't even elect people that don't wank in the fucking education office. And I have TDS. Shut the fuck up, bitch. Yeah, you're a clown. You're a clown. You can't even stand up for your own family. That's how politicized you got. That's how funny that is. That's not a man. That's not a person. What a fucking joke. That's embarrassing. And don't you ask a fucking word about my kid. Get the fuck off my YouTube channel. Go fuck yourself. Mentioning dumb fucking bullshit. Go fuck yourself, bitch. That's the stream, bitch. Yeah, fuck you.